What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you, and happy April Fool's Day as well. Not that anybody gives a shit anymore, other than people who just want others to briefly think that they're pregnant or something like that. Never been a big fan of April Fool's Day myself, but it's just a day
No,
for lying and I don't know. It's just
yeah.
dumb.
I mean, I have friends who worked on prank shows, so I watched a few of them to support. And I'm like, all these are just assault. It's either just simple assault or you're stealing someone's shit. That's what a prank is.
Yeah.
Yeah, April Fools, everybody. The real joke is American society's functioning fine. April
Uh-huh.
Fools.
April
Um,
Fools.
yeah, today we're gonna be talking about lawyers, Pokemon Go protests, the upcoming elections on when you guys are watching this today, April Fools. But first, I want to talk about. Remember a couple weeks ago we talked about like all the state legislatures trying to ban chemtrails, and I called it preemptively the most successful legislation of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Got another example of that. State rep in Texas by the name of Stan Gertis has introduced something called the Furries Act, which stands for forbidding unlawful representation of role playing in education that will prohibit non human behavior in Texas schools, including litter boxes,
Mm-hmm.
tails, leashes, collars, and other accessories designed for pets. So you can't, no collars means you can't be goth in Texas anymore. Barking, meowing, hissing, or other animal noises. So I guess you can't do the Arsenio in a Texas high school. Not that any kids are doing that nowadays. You also can't lick yourself. So what if I get chocolate on my shirt, Trey? Uh,
Well, I don't know. Better figure something else out. Some non woke way to get rid of that chocolate off your hand. This is so. Yeah, I know what you comparing it to the chemtrail thing. It's like, oh, they're as they love to do, solving a problem that doesn't exist. So
mhm.
after this, if this passes, they'll be like, see, there's no more litter boxes in schools anymore when there never was. But we talked before about how the actual, because a lot of times a lot of this lunacy is based in like a kernel of truth, and the kernel of truth with the litter boxes was like a school shooter emergency response kit that included like
It was
something
like
akin to kitty litter and that sort of thing. So like, will those now be taken out, as part
right.
of this? And then
It was literally Columbine. Well, I think with the sequence of events here is the other order. Like NBC News tried to get to the bottom of whether any school anywhere had a litter box. The only example they could find after the panic was that Columbine High School, as their school shooter kit, had kitty litter to soak up blood.
right,
Right. So but the only real truth in it was the panic popped off first, and then some kids in I think Idaho saw it and thought it was funny, so they tried to go to school in cat outfits to feed the panic as a troll job, and then
yeah,
the principal made them go home and change. So yeah, this panic based on nothing has gone wide because again, if you guys aren't caught up on it, they think furries are related to transgender people because they identify as cats, which is not what furries are, and then
mm-hmm.
kids akin to the transgender stuff are identifying as cats and going to school and eating off the floor and pooping in litter boxes. Anyway, there's an exception to this law for school plays, but not for musicals. So if you want to put on cats at your high school, get fucked.
Yeah,
Um,
in Texas at least. Go
yeah.
move to some less American state, one of the gay states where they still have fun and stuff.
Yeah. So there are exempt days. Like you can go to school dressed as a cat if you're a furry on Halloween, and there's also an exception for mascots. So if you want to find an exception to this, you can just be your school mascot every day. Which have you been to a Texas pep rally? I have. That's a fucking live option.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys have a mascot at your school growing up, like a person in a suit? Did you have one of those?
Yeah, we were. Our school historically had been the Rebels. So in the South,
Nice.
you can guess what the mascot was, but they changed it because of wokeness in the 1980s
Yeah.
to be the Raiders, and the mascot was a pirate. So
Oh yeah.
we were the Appomattox Raiders. Yeah.
So like somebody at your school dressed up as a pirate for all the games. That's fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, we didn't have I guess we didn't have it in the budget for like a bulldog costume or whatever. But I didn't know. Mascots
Oh,
are a funny thing to be. Like I don't know who that appeals to, but I'm glad that those people exist because everybody loves a person in an eagle suit or whatever.
I forgot this, but one of my first entrees into comedy writing was I wrote a humor column for my high school newspaper, making fun of it. We got a new mascot. They tried to do the San Diego chicken thing, and had a guy like we were still the Raiders, but the mascot was like a big chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a column roasting it, and my principal spiked it, censored it from the school newspaper. That was my first time going up against the man.
Yeah, you're too rabble rousing with that.
Yes,
like you're pushing the
yes.
envelope too much by roasting the chicken, which I'm getting hungry. But
Yeah.
that's fun. It's like last thing, like Gritty. You know Gritty, the Philadelphia. Yeah, like they make videos of him like chasing women in Pittsburgh Penguin jerseys down dark alleyways and shit. It's fucking hilarious. It's hilarious. Anyway, so
Yeah. Gritty
right.
rules. Gritty's like Antifa adjacent or something by his branding. It's very weird.
Anyway, producer Matt's back there doing his thing. This is Weekly Skews. I want to remind you before we continue, as always, first of all, if you'd like to see me do stand-up comedy live and in person, and you should, of course, want to do that, go to my website, TreyCrowder.com, and check out my upcoming tour dates. I'll be back in Lowell, Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas this weekend at the Grove. It's one of my favorite clubs and favorite parts of the country there near the Ozarks. And then in other hillbilly mountains next week, I'll be back home in East Tennessee, Knoxville, where I started stand-up, and then Chattanooga. Those shows, notably, Knoxville, Drew Morgan, founding member of the Skewniverse, and then Chattanooga with the Cho himself, Corey Ryan Forrester. So don't miss those. Actually, both of those are sold out, so I hope you got your tickets already. But anyway, that'll be fun. A lot of other places in the near future, all at TreyCrowder.com. Also there's a link to my new special, Trash Daddy, on YouTube. People are digging it. I'm making clips from it, so hopefully you're seeing some of those. Watch the whole thing. It's a fun time. Lastly, if you enjoy this program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. You go to weeklyskews.com/more, or just go on Patreon and search for my name. Either way works. $5 a month get you access to 2 full-length bonus episodes. We do just regular bonus episodes of this show, just exactly like the normal episodes, but more of them. And we also do Q&A, skew-and-A, as it were, interactive episodes. So get some more skews in your life and support the show in the process by signing up on Patreon. All right, as for the show tonight, we'll be talking about the big Wisconsin Supreme Court situation, which Elon's been involved with, trying to buy off, giving checks to millions of dollars for noted Republicans and things of that nature. But first, we got the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Today's DD, Mark, for wasting time doing research because he assumed the accusations in this campaign ad were too crazy to be true.
Randy Fine, a corrupt millionaire and career politician. Fine was put under investigation by the State Ethics Commission. He tried to evade the law, hiding under his desk. Then, convicted of contempt for giving a judge the finger. Sentenced to anger management therapy. Fine even tried to cut off funding for the Special Olympics in a political feud and called a school board member a Randy Fine deserve better.
I'm Josh Wheel.
Okay. So the closest thing to a lie in here is the cut off funding for Special Olympics because of a personal feud and call a school board member a whore or the same incident. And it makes it sound like they're kind of two different things. That's the closest thing to a misrepresentation in there.
This is hilarious. This is Florida, right? Of course it is. Where else could it possibly be but Florida? But yeah.
Florida's 6th district, which is around Daytona on the east coast of Florida. So he's running to replace Mike Waltz, Trump's, who left to become Trump's national security advisor. Who's caught up in the...
that guy hasn't had much going on lately. Everything's going smoothly for him.
I bet he wishes he's back in Congress right now. He's about to be unemployed, I think. So... Fine's a fucking long-time lunatic, okay, which is important element here. Like he sitting on at a commission, and a woman came up to speak, a Muslim woman who was wearing a head wrap, and he said, "Oh, come on up here in your terrorist rags." Said that to her on camera on like local public access TV. He once made a front face.
What do you call it?
Right.
Come on.
He once made a front-facing video where at some sort of event he was doing, and he was waving at vehicles, and but he refused to wave at a mobile library for being big woke government.
Yeah.
Boo
books.
Yeah.
Fuck books.
In 2023, his wife Wendy was accused of sexually suggestive dancing in the presence of children at a Spring Forward for Autism nonprofit gala in Melbourne, Florida.
Oh my God, dude.
Okay,
Oh,
so
every accusation is an admission. That's one thing, but also it's just that some Florida trash guy having like a trophy wife who's getting hammered and twerking at fucking autism fundraisers,
yeah,
whatever. It's all very Daytona Beach-y. It's just it's all almost too
I'm
good, too
I'm
perfect.
surprised he would attend a charity benefit for autistic children. That's the part that fucking surprised me. Maybe he was
Yeah,
court ordered or something. So for context here, back in November, Mike Waltz won this district by 33 points. Now the
yeah.
party's worried that Josh Wheel, who's a math teacher, is going to beat Fine because he's such an insane loser, but he won the primary because Trump endorsed him.
Yeah,
Okay.
aren't there two special elections or whatever in Florida, or is it just this one?
Yes.
That,
Matt Gates' district
right,
is a little
but
special
which
too.
if they're in deep red districts, but like if they manage to pull a coup, the Democrats and win these, then that would flip the House, right, or even
I
it
think it'd be
out.
I think it'd be tied, but there's some
Yeah,
added context here is like the Democrats are down 2 seats because two people they ran with cancer in their 80s or whatever fucking died.
yeah,
Okay, since the election. So, you're right. The House majority is down to 2 seats presently. I don't think the Democrats are going to win the Gates seat. That's more of a long shot than this one is. And even this one, the polls say it's within the margin of error, but I'll still believe when I see it if Wheel wins.
right.
But so last week, Trump withdrew the nomination of Elise Stefanik to serve as ambassador to the UN precisely because their margin is so thin they can't afford to lose it. Okay. And she had not yet resigned her House seat, thank God for her, otherwise she'd be unemployed. But she did give up her position as House GOP conference chair. And she spent all last week, if you wonder how blindsided what she was by this, she spent all last week doing a career congressional retrospective on Instagram about how awesome her congressional career had been, but she was so sad to leave it behind. Yeah, so get fucked Elise Stefanik. That's funny, but I would anticipate her challenging Mike Johnson for speaker at some point because she's bored and she's a power hungry psycho.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so another big election happening Tuesday. Trey already referenced it. Is the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which will decide the balance of power on the court between the liberals and conservatives. Okay, the two candidates are former Republican Attorney General Brad Schimel, who's an objectively pro-January 6th guy who's now a circuit court judge in Waukesha County. He's up against Susan Crawford, who's a judge in Dane County. The race is technically nonpartisan, but it's one of those bullshit things that everyone knows is fake, right? The amount of money being spent on this race is fucking staggering. This is a state Supreme Court race. I want to quote here from a former Republican state senator named Robert Cowles, who was the only Republican to vote against a bill that back in 2015 that allowed unlimited spending in state elections. Okay, he said, "quote I just thought big money was an evil, a curse on our politics." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This race has been nothing but a barrage of attack ads between the two candidates. And he said, quote, "Our public discourse is basically who can inflame things the most clever way with some terrible TV ad that's probably not even true." Yeah. The amount of money here, to be clear, more than $80 million has been spent on the race as of March 25th. The previous most expensive judicial race in American history was $56 million spent 2 years ago, also in the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. And this current race is probably going to reach $100 million by the end of business Tuesday.
That's fucking insane, dude. Especially like, and money can be used on other things, like, like if we weren't allowed to put this much money into all of our elections, well, I'm sure whatever, it wouldn't go to anything good because this is just America and that's how it
Right.
works. But hypothetically, it could go to things that would be worth spending the money on instead of,
Yeah.
politics all the goddamn time.
And if you're wondering why national people would spend $100 million on a state Supreme Court race, it's because of gerrymandering and redistricting. Basically, this Supreme Court race will decide control of the U.S. House of Representatives. Elon Musk said that on stage at a rally in Wisconsin last night. Sunday night to you guys. So the shit Elon's up to here is fucking insane. He spent $17 million of his own money, and I'm not sure if that counts this. Play this video, Matt. He's been straight up paying people $100 a piece to sign a petition against judicial activism and also doing lotteries. Here you go, Matt, if you got the video from this lady.
My name's Ekaterina Diesler. I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I did exactly what Elon Musk told everyone to do. Sign a petition, refer friends and family, vote, and now I have $1 million.
All right. So he basically paid her $1 million to confess to a crime on camera. So I would, your name's, first of all, I know America's a big country with a lot of weird little subcultures in it, but Wisconsin has way too many people named shit like Ekaterina Diesler. Okay. So, Ekaterina, I would advise you to save that $1 million for legal fees later on if Democrats ever grow any balls. But even this scam is a scam because the lottery drawings don't seem to be random.
Right.
The guy who got the first $1 million is named Nicholas Jacobs, who apparently is the same guy who's the chairman of the Wisconsin College, University of Wisconsin College Republicans.
Yeah, and I saw a bunch of people like, Elon, like, I don't know how far on the right they are, but at least ostensibly somewhat right-wing people online when this has happened, being like shocked and upset or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like, wait, so it was, this was bullshit, or like, nope, we didn't really have a shot at it, or like this was, some sort of scam. And it's like, I just don't know how anyone's ever surprised by any of that anymore at this point. It's like, well, I don't know when these people are going to learn that this is, of course, just how they operate,
Dude, Elon
like
doesn't
you said, even the scam is a scam, and that's just the way it all works. It's like, fucking wake up, sheeple. God damn.
He does not know how to not do scams.
Right.
His first, second, third thoughts are all scams. Like, so as far as if you're wondering, is this illegal? Yes, fully illegal.
Right.
It's definitely, it's like literally like a black letter law class A felony in Wisconsin.
Like anything over $1, right? Like any kind of, any like not just like in exchange for voting. It, like you said, it seems very explicitly clear that this could not be more illegal, but like they're just abiding by the whole who's going to stop us, approach to this. And
The Wisconsin College Republicans were trying to organize the thing to give away free ice cream to people in line to vote, and the state party told them to stand that down because giving out free ice cream was illegal, right? So if you're wondering where like Wisconsin has a Democratic Attorney General named Josh Kaul, where the fuck is he at? He filed an injunction with the courts, and the injunction got denied. Now it did not get denied because the courts think this is cool and good. It got denied because Call is fucking just pretending to do something, because courts do not issue injunctions for activity that's already a crime. This is the court saying, this is already against the law, motherfucker. I don't need to tell him this. Get an indictment.
right. Okay.
Right? So do your job.
Right. Okay. Yes. So yes, you've made it make sense to me. I get the idea of that. It's like, this is not what injunctions are for. I've never been clear on what injunctions are for. I just know that they tend to stop things from happening. But
an injunction is a court telling somebody to stop something because it might be illegal.
It might be illegal.
Like, we don't have to do this.
This is definitely illegal. So do what you do when something is illegal, which is arrest a person or file charges or whatever. But then Call is not doing that, though.
No.
Right. So,
nobody wants to do their fucking jobs.
Everybody wants to make someone else do it for them, but they don't want to do it themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So, as far as the campaign spending here, so the funny part of this is there's too much money in elections. We all know it's gross, and I think most of our viewers will agree it's fucking evil and destructive. But most of the money is coming on the Democratic side here, all right? So no one's even really complaining about it. Schimel, the conservative, his campaign called Crawford a hypocrite, saying, quote, she is, quote, playing the victim while receiving more money than any judicial candidate in American history. And he's fucking right. So, like, it's like yes, Elon is doing, like, there's the legal corruption, which is funneling money into this race. Then there's the illegal corruption, which is Elon's doing that plus this lottery scheme. But, like, it's all degrees of the same shit. Fucking yes, indict Elon for illegal campaign activity, but then also pledge that, yes, donate to me so I can win, so then I can rule that money should be illegal in elections. Let's be honest about what we need to be doing here, but no one's going to call for that because all the people getting the money, somebody's getting that $100 million. TV stations are getting it. Newspapers are getting it. Consultants are getting paid to place the ads. Some of these people are getting paid to make the ads. Yeah. It's a fucking human centipede of corruption here.
Right. And that was the problem with letting so much money into our politics to begin with, is like, you're never going to be able to get that genie back in the bottle because of what you just said. Like the very people that it would take to change it back benefit from it, or have too many people in their sphere that benefit from it and make money from it to be incentivized to change it back. So it's just a real shitty situation. You need somebody with, like, unless they have, like, integrity or principles or any of that shit that doesn't get you very far in politics.
If I was like if somebody who's a long shot should try this argument, be like, okay, I want to get money out of politics. all the billionaires, the left-wing billionaires who understand that money's destructive, give me $1 trillion to become president, and you will never have to spend another dollar on politics again. Right? That is your investment.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Yeah. Shit, sorry, I just had our honorable mention for Daily Dumbasses. The Turkish riot police for not knowing what they were summoning when they issued orders about protesters that said, "Gotta catch 'em all." Matt, video. Love it. If you're only listening, it's a very, very whimsical video of what is absolutely Pikachu, perhaps the most popular of all Pokemon, shuffling quickly down a street as part of part of these Turkish protests that have been going on. And it's like you said, there was a viral picture of this moment that went around that apparently was faked, which is odd because it really did happen, but I guess they didn't have a good enough shot of it, so they just faked a good shot of it. Just, but anyway, yeah, Pikachu was running from the cops in Istanbul.
If you want to glimpse into our soon future, it's somebody dressed as Pikachu fleeing fucking riot police.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about Turkey. I know we mentioned Turkey last week. I want to talk about it real quick because here in the United States, a Turkish national who is here on a student visa by the name of Rümeysa Öztürk, who's a PhD student at Tufts University, was snatched off the street by 6 guys who said they were ICE agents. All these agencies are basically working for ICE now, including the IRS. So I have no idea whether they know what they're doing, whether they're literally ICE or not. They didn't show badges. They surveilled her for 2 days before they arrested her. They wore masks to snatch her off the street, and they kidnapped her. And they did it because a year ago, she was one of 4 people that co-signed an op-ed in the student newspaper that called for the university administration to recognize a resolution passed by the student senate about Gaza. There is not a more anodyne, boring form of protest than calling on your administration to recognize a resolution passed by the student senate that you write about in your student newspaper, right?
Let me ask you this, Mark. How are they? Is it the NSA or what? Is it reporting from? Turncoats, but like these people, these are not like famous or high profile people. These PhD students and people, and that are just engaging in college protests and stuff. But they get fucking found out. Like there's the whole you get your name on a proverbial list or whatever just by doing something.
There have been Zionist organizations who've been keeping lists for the past year.
Right,
and like one of them, we talked about recently. Betar US is like openly about we've turned over a list of 1,000 names to the administration. These people were on it. So,
but it's like, but from a practical standpoint, did those Zionist organizations? Did they have like people that like report to them that are on these like campuses, or do they have like AI or computer programs that monitor social media posts from people and flag certain ones, or is it just like they just do all that shit?
Well, I mean, Rümeysa, like again, this is a student newspaper. Anybody in Boston could have seen it and just sent an email to
right.
Right. So Marco Rubio was asked about Rümeysa explicitly, and he was like, I'm paraphrasing except for the word ruckus here because I want to focus on the word ruckus. He said, "You get a student visa to come to this country and come to this country and study. You can't come here and make a ruckus or take away your visa." Trey, what do you think legally constitutes a ruckus? Is like 3 more people gathered together to do a hullabaloo, or like what do you think?
Yeah, yeah, yes. How much monkey shines constitutes a ruckus? It depends on the amount of skullduggery involved, I believe.
Yeah.
In the monkey shines, and especially if you get to a level of chicanery, then you're definitely looking at a potential ruckus violation. It's funny about that. It's like fucking. What college is all about is causing various ruckuses. That was my experience anyway.
We had a debate about, I was in college when fucking like Bill Clinton was bombing Kosovo, and fucking somebody sent a campus-wide email all about it. It started a reply all fucking debate fiasco. Administration had to ask everybody to please stop replying. Kids are allowed to be stupid. You should be encouraged to be stupid. Even if you disagree with her politics. Anyway, like she's a PhD student, and her area of study is like children's media. She like researches like what kids find interesting about the Teletubbies, and Trump administration is calling her, deporting her for being a terrorist back to Turkey, where I'm sure she'll be treated fairly as a protester. The really dystopian evil thing about this, forget taking away her visa. You would usually do this by sending a letter saying the person has 30 days to leave the country. So this is literally like this kidnapping could have been an email type situation.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these kidnappings could have been emails that we've heard about lately. Just the number
So
of
they,
kidnappings by the government is entirely too high, in my opinion. Especially,
yes,
especially the ones that we know about. You know what I mean? Like, thought they were supposed to be a little more covert with it. At least if they're going to be snatching people off the street,
dude,
they
a
don't even
Chinese,
care.
a college professor who's an expert in computer science and cryptography was just disappeared, I think, from the university of some university, and no one knows what happened to him, and the administration deleted him off the website. Just fully disappeared. And
Right.
that's suspicious enough where I think like it might be maybe a spy situation, don't know the truth of it, but like they're not saying anything, just guy's just gone. And administration's in on it. Anyway, so I'm not just spitballing about this could have just been an email. They've been doing other visa revocations that are going to lead to deportations via email. Like just the other day, hundreds of international students got emails telling them their visas have been revoked, and the justifications campus activism or social media posts. I want to note that these are private. So if you wonder why they're holding people and they could just ask them to leave, it's because people are fucking getting paid off this. All right.
Yeah, just like with private prisons or whatever, it's like it affects their bottom line by more people we like, pseudo illegally incarcerate indefinitely and that type of thing, just to spend their human rights. But we spend, and then also they're cleaning up. That's taxpayer dollars that are paying for that facility, right? And it's like meanwhile they're talking, Elon's trying to fix the government waste, and then we're spending millions on putting American citizens in El Salvador in prisons, or whoever the fucking contractor is that runs this goddamn gulag in Louisiana that we're using too. And it's like, but I guess that's a good use of taxpayer dollars instead of like schools and shit, healthcare.
I bet Rumesa was the sole path to Louisiana. I want to talk about Turkey for a second because Erdogan apparently, according to this piece I read in the Financial Times, like this foreign policy experts, like Erdogan's and some other wannabe autocrats have basically taken Trump's bullshit as license to go full Putin, because usually it'd be the United States government who'd like pressure them not to do this shit. But I'm going to quote here from Steve Witkoff, who's Trump's special envoy to the Middle East and Ukraine. Let me quote him on Erdogan. Quote, "There's a lot of good, positive news coming out of Turkey right now. Brother, are you talking specifically about the British people going there to get cheap Brazilian butt lifts, or the ice cream guys doing tricks? Because
Yeah, they got great coffee too, and men can get hair transplants. There's a couple other good things going on in Turkey. So yeah, a lot of exciting stuff over there."
So, anyway, while we're trying to ship Rumesa back there to, I don't know, be imprisoned or join Pokemon on that protest, they also pulled the same shit with a Russian medical researcher at Harvard who protested the Ukraine war. She was detained by ICE, so I guess put a bow on her head when you ship her back to Putin in a box with air holes to be tortured. Speaking of Steve Witkoff and Vladimir Putin, I wanted to show you this clip of Witkoff talking about Russia, if you got this video, Matt.
There's a misconception, though, about the characterization of him as a tyrant or someone whose political opponents often disappear or die.
I think in my 68 years on this earth, I've never, ever seen a situation where there isn't two sides to a story.
Right. There's two sides to a story. The guy that fell out of the window and also the pavements.
Yes. Yeah. Or also, even in like, okay, but the other side of the story is just like, yeah, well, he was asking to be thrown out that window. From my view, he deserved to be thrown out the window. That's
right.
Technically a side of a story. It just doesn't mean that anyone else should give any credence to it or anything,
I guess Steve Witkoff saying, well, maybe Putin's right. These people are criminals or terrorists, but also we're talking about doctors who whistle blew about COVID. So yeah. The reason I wanted to play that is to talk about what like level of speed running Putinism Trump's trying to do, because we're about to talk about lawyers. As we talk about this, I want you to, a thought I want you to keep in your head is like, as far as I can tell, Putin wasn't persecuting lawyers for representing regime enemies until like before like 2022. So we're going real fast here. So let's talk about lawyers, man. It's cool we're seeing all the ground up protests at both town halls and Tesla dealerships, but I think definitely it's undeniable that the front line of resistance to Trump bullshit, the evil stuff, has been judges and lawyers. So let's talk about Trump's efforts to fucking make all the lawyers afraid. Earlier this month, he issued an executive order that was trying to destroy a huge, big law firm by the name of Perkins Coie. Perkins Coie's primary offense, I guess, was representing Hillary Clinton in 2016 and for standing up for other like lib causes that Trump doesn't like. Now, to state the plainly obvious, like this violates the First Amendment, it contravenes constitutional due process rights, and also, it goes against your Sixth Amendment right to counsel. To Perkins Coie's credit, they fought back against this. Another law firm working with him named Williams and Connolly filed a lawsuit on their behalf on constitutional grounds. And in a hearing the very next day, a judge issued an order temporarily barring enforcement of most of the order. Okay, that's how quickly it happened.
Okay, but what is this particular executive order? What is it? What does it say, or what's it meant to do?
They did stuff like revoke their security clearances. Basically it said some of the
like it literally singles out this specific law firm in the executive order. Yeah, oh, that's crazy.
It did stuff like
that's. I didn't even know that they could do that. I guess I think that all the time now, but
it basically said the government wouldn't do business with anyone who hires them as a client. Some of the other executive orders, I'm not sure if the ones against Perkins Coie did this, but like tried barring their lawyers from federal courthouses and shit. So yeah, it's pretty blatantly fucking unconstitutional shit. They should be easy to fight back against. And the reason I pointed out that Perkins Coie got an order the literal next day is because that's how fucking easy it was. Because any judge is going to see this as bullshit. So I want to talk about. So the reason this is important is not because I care about big time white shoe law firms, even though they do some good work. It's because if they can come for a big time rich law firm, they can fucking come for anybody. And I'm not saying these big law firms are paragons of moral virtue or do a bunch of like all good work, but they are the tip of the spear here. And if they could take out like a rich Yale guy who spends 98% of his hours defending like Philip Morris and childslavery.com because he spends the other 2% representing Greenpeace, then nothing's fucking real anymore.
Right.
You know
yeah, that's the thing, man, is it's like, I mean, no, that's a good point because, right, that I did last year, time's a construct, who fucking knows, it all runs together. But in the last year, 18 months, I was the entertainment at the National Trial Lawyers Convention in Miami, and I talked about it afterwards. Not that I was surprised by this. I know that's how they work, but it's wild. The sort of like code of ethics or whatever you want to call it for lawyers is wild because the dude they were honoring at that conference with their #1 award that year was a guy who had repped both Hunter Biden and I think Matt Gaetz like in the past like 6 months before that or whatever. But it's like, that ain't how lawyers operate. They're, that's supposed to be the whole point with lawyers ostensibly is that they don't give a fuck. They're there to represent, your like legal rights. And, if that means they represent scumbags and they represent fucking heroes and everything in between. And that's kind of immaterial to the concept of why lawyers and the law are important to begin with. So,
which one of the founding fathers was it in Boston that was it John Adams that represented the sick shoulders in the British Massacre, the principle that everybody gets a right to counsel? But
exactly,
the big white shoe law firms will say that like they're standing up for indigent defendants who are charged with crimes they didn't commit, while they're representing literally like cancer chemicals incorporated. Right. You don't have to do that. You don't have to make $1 million doing that. But they use the same framework. But anyway, this is like the point is if you take away the resources they get from fighting for Cancer Chemicals Incorporated, they don't have the pro bono work to represent like fight the Muslim ban. Right. They don't have the money to finance that. So this is what Trump's trying to do is to cut off their clients from Cancer Chemicals Incorporated, so they don't do pro bono work to fighting the next Muslim ban or whatever. So, which brings us. Now that we're moving off of Perkins Coie, let's talk about today's big coward, Paul Weiss. Okay, Paul Weiss is a law firm. It's not a guy's name. It's the first two names of a long like partnership name. It's a list of last names. It's something like Paul Weiss, John, Jacob, Jingleheimer, Schmidt, Trey Crowder, Rabinowitz, something like that. So Trump's executive order banned them from federal courthouses, among other things. And he did so because the firm's definition of the public interest leaned liberal and because it employs a guy named Mark Pomerantz, who worked with the Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg on Trump's New York hush money trial. And Paul Weiss, even though Perkins Coie before them had stood up and easily won, at least temporarily, fucking laid down immediately.
Laid down in what way? Like, meaning they like made concessions so he would lift these things?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
They basically agreed not to represent anybody Trump doesn't like,
Yeah.
and also to redirect $40 million of pro bono work specifically to quote to support the administration's initiatives. In other words, they agreed to let the government dictate how they allocate their charitable legal services, which is government compelled speech. Like literally textbook, like a classroom example of First Amendment violation of compelled speech. All right. So basically, the scenario that's set up, you're going to have a bunch of Harvard lawyers who consider themselves good libs at appellate courts arguing that the real racism is against the Irish. All right. I can't really make sense of any of this for a lot of reasons, but when you think about if you do any research about Paul Weiss's history, if you go to their website, like it says, like the firm has long prided itself on breaking barriers and standing up to the government on issues like civil rights. Its website brags how it was the first major New York City law firm to have Jewish lawyers working alongside Gentiles and to hire a black associate and have a female partner. So, the marketing materials they use to sell themselves about how brave they are standing up for people's civil rights, and they won't stand up for their own fucking civil rights to be around to stand up anymore for other people's civil rights.
Yeah. Sounds like a woke DEI law firm to me, Mark. Maybe they've got the hint from the election, as we all know. You're not allowed to care about things or people anymore, or people's rights, because that's not what the American people want. Can't win elections caring about people, and I guess you can't be a law firm doing that either. So
the thing that so I was trying to think of like all the reasons not to do this, besides being a good upstanding person who's not a fucking coward, wanted to die on his knees, is. It's it's an easy win. Perkins Coie already proved it. And also, since Perkins Coie and Williams Connolly, whatever the other law firms already won, why would you announce to the world that you, as a law firm, are too stupid and incompetent to win in court like your rival law firms did?
Yeah. I don't know, man. This is you're kind of fucking me up with all this because this is something I had missed. I knew about the I know there's been a flood of executive orders, but I did not realize that they were. I didn't know it was a thing that an administration could issue executive orders that single out particular businesses or law firms or whatever.
It's not.
Right.
It's not.
Right. Yeah.
Trump made it up. He made it up a week ago, and all the lawyers who went to law school for 3 years to fucking study all this shit, and Trump said all this is fake, and they're like, yes sir. So it seems like bad business for a law firm to concede that laws aren't real.
Right. Yeah. No. This is wild.
You're a constitutional lawyer saying the Constitution's fake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they're not all doing it. You said the first one we talked about, they're fighting it, right? So
but
one of them's fighting it, one of them bent over.
I think Williams and Connolly sent out a petition for other the top 20 biggest law firms to sign to get to show solidarity with Perkins Coie, and nobody has signed it yet. Yeah. They're waiting to see what happens with how this plays out between Paul Weiss versus Perkins Coie. So, but I just understand these people expect to keep making a living, and how lawyers keep planning to make a living in a country with no laws. We'll get to that in a second because I have a theory. But it's not as many are going to be able to eat, but the biggest cowards are going to eat real well. So instead of fighting back, Brad Karp, who's the head of Paul Weiss, went to the Oval Office. I bet he literally carried a hat in his hand and fucking groveled. And this is a guy, again, who's a wealthy, big-time white shoe lawyer. He was in no danger of anything other than maybe having a belt tightened a little by selling either his second house in Sag Harbor or his third house in Martha's Vineyard or his condo in Miami or his boat in Fort Lauderdale, whatever, right? He's just fucking lazy. It's just do you want to fight to make a living, or do you want to just keep making passive income and have no dignity? He's second option, please.
Yeah.
And if you follow any of the legal cases, one of the reasons Trump's so focused on immigration is because immigration is one of the fronts where the president has basically godlike authority. Everywhere else is getting his ass handed to him in court, okay? DOJ lawyers are going to court and complaining to judges about how they can't meet judges' judicial deadlines because they literally haven't slept. DOJ is bleeding lawyers left and right because a lot of them don't want to do this shit. And they can't get career attorneys to sign off on half the illegal shit they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have the resources to bring a bunch of frivolous lawsuits, much less fight legitimate ones pushing back on them. They're already getting laughed out of court.
Right, which is good. We talked about that before. It come up, the idea that at a certain point, it's just one of the things, you think about if you're in opposition to the Trump administration, it's like the way they just hemorrhage people and have throughout both administrations from the very beginning of the first one. It's like the turnover is insane, and you think, and they just get wilder and wilder with their agenda too. And it's like you'd think at a certain point they would run out of people who are both like, true believers, but also sane enough to even be competent at the job that they have to do or whatever, and that would adversely affect the efficacy of the administration overall eventually at some point.
If I'm like, it's just so upside down. Like I'm looking at this environment, like where DOJ lawyers might not have the resources to show up in court. If I'm the Saul Goodman of Paul Weiss, I'm like, I'm going to file 1,000, forget laying down. I'm filing all the lawsuits I can because I might win by default when they don't fucking show up because they overslept.
Yeah, right.
This is what they call a target-rich environment. And like this is like getting back to everybody deserves representation thing. Fucking Neil Katyal, do you know who he is? He's a big-time liberal lawyer, arguing in front of the Supreme Court all the time. He for years and years he was on the Supreme Court short list.
Okay.
Every time there's an opening under Democratic administrations. A couple years ago, he was at the Supreme Court arguing on behalf of Nestle. They should not be held accountable for having child slavery in their supply chains. And his defense was that everybody deserves representation, right? Mm-hmm. And here you now have all these big white shoe law firms who consider themselves liberals, like Neil Katyal, who are like, only Trump supporters deserve representation now.
Right. Because they're just afraid. They're afraid of them, like you said, the money spigot being turned off or whatever,
But to me, it misunderstands where the money spigot's coming from because the tide's going to turn anyway. It's like to my mind, they're choosing to make less money, but whatever. We'll figure it. Well, I guess it'll
right
shake out
because
it's
like you said. Okay, what's a lawyer do in a country with no laws or whatever? Especially if you've illustrated the lack of any willingness to fight for yourself, even your own survival. It's like nobody else is going to want you to fight for them after that. So
is that. By the way, speaking of now, how not everyone is caving and how all these situations create strange bedfellows. So Trump is also going after a law firm by the name of Wilmer Hale. Wilmer Hale hired to defend them a conservative firebrand lawyer by the name of Paul Clement, who otherwise would agree with Trump on basically everything. But I do want to note that Paul Clement is a real believer in this everybody deserves representation bullshit. He represented the gun side in a Supreme Court gun case a couple of years ago that basically legalized, people carrying handguns in the subway in New York. It's called Bruin or something. And his law firm, because of the public pushback against it, his law firm at the time was named Kirkland & Ellis. They decided they were no longer going to take gun cases because of all the public heat. He fucking said, "Fuck you and quit. I will represent anybody that pays me, goddammit, because I'm a lawyer and I like guns." But there are true believers in this stuff, and I hate that I have to be on fucking Paul Clement's side.
Right.
Of a debate because people that otherwise agree with me are fucking spineless.
Yep. Well, that's that sums up one of the greatest frustrations with being on the left. Period is what you just said. So many people who agree with me are spineless.
Yeah. So at least there are still some people with principles. But to go back to our other question about how are lawyers going to make money in a country with no laws? Well, the real answer is for a small number of them, they get to make a great living being fixers, okay? I want to present to you the case of a guy named Trevor Milton, who was the founder of electric vehicle maker named Nikola. Not Tesla, another one named Nikola.
That feels a little lazy unless it happens to, predates Tesla and we just never heard about him or something. Otherwise, it's like, I don't know, I feel like you could have tried a little harder than that.
Right. So what Trevor Milton did, Nikola, by the way, made their differentiator was they made electric big rigs, like 18-wheelers.
Yeah.
So Milton was found guilty in 2022 of lying to his investors. He just got pardoned by Donald Trump. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know that you could be found guilty of lying to investors, but you said that was 2022, so I guess that makes sense. Lying to investors, all the rage.
Yeah, I can't do it anymore probably, but I want to watch this promo video of a Nikola-made semi, and I'll tell you why it's funny in a second. This is a promo he put out to try to spur investment in one of the things he got convicted for. Looks cool, right?
No, that's
a big rig.
Certainly a truck, yes.
Okay, Here's the punchline. One of the things he was convicted for was putting out this video because that truck has no engine in it. It's rolling down a hill.
You know, well, you can't tell the difference. You know what I mean? You can't, you know, the truck is rolling. It's hard to tell whether it's running or not, or you know, whether it's
Right.
gravity or your revolutionary new electric engine you're working on.
Yeah,
It rolls all the same.
electric engines don't make noise, so I guess like who would
Right.
tell the difference? So in the lead up to the election, from prison, Milton donated about $2 million to PAC supporting Donald Trump in the last election, obviously. For comparison's sake, in previous presidential and congressional races, he had given less than $20,000 total. So $2 million was a lot of money to give and way out of his norm. And here's the real punchline here. His lawyer is Pam Bondi's brother.
Right. Pam Bondi, Attorney General.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he paid Trump $2 million and paid a bunch of legal fees to Pam Bondi's brother, who apparently texted his sister and was like, "Hey, can you flag for Donald Trump that that my client paid him $2 million?" And he's like, "Sure." Then he gets a pardon, and that's how laws are going to work in this country for a little while, the federal level anyway. This is just levels of corruption like previously reserved for countries led by guys who give press conferences like wearing military uniforms with way too many like medals on them.
Yeah, give it time, man. You know,
Yeah.
they've been heading down that Banana Republic road for a while now. I'm sure it won't be too long. Trump does have that sort of vibe to him, that kind of like
He tried to have
Idi
military.
Amin, but white
Yeah.
and stupid.
Yeah, it, like trying to govern that way is like you have no idea how hard those Idi Amin types have to be to get to the top in their countries, and like these
Right.
other guys are too soft to do that, but they're probably going to try to anyway because they don't understand how that life is hard for a lot of people. So like here's another example of what I'm talking about. Let me quote here from the Los Angeles Times, a story that came out yesterday. A federal prosecutor in Los Angeles was fired Friday at the behest of the White House after lawyers for a fast food executive he was prosecuting pushed officials in Washington to drop all the charges against him. This is the case of a guy named Andrew Wiederhorn, a former chief executive of the company that owns fast food chains Fatburger and Johnny Rockets. He did tax fraud by using $47 million of company money, quote unquote, allegedly. I got to say allegedly because so I don't end up in court. Allegedly to buy stuff like a piano and a Rolls Royce Phantom.
Nice.
So his lawyers knew some lawyers in Washington and just like, "Hey man, can you drop a charge? Can you fire the guy prosecuting my guy?" And they're like, "Yeah." So my question is, why the fuck go to law school anymore except to make friends with people who might end up working in Washington?
Right. Yeah.
mean-
That's what it's all about. You know, it's how Bill Maher is going to land that Donald Trump interview or whatever. He had to get in with Kid Rock. Kid Rock, part of the inner circle, famously. Kid Rock currently trying to convince Donald Trump to sit down with Bill Maher, and it looks like he just might pull it off. It's all about who you know, Mark. You know, gotta get in there and make those connections. I need to text JD again. That's what I need to do. See what he's up to these days, just
Yeah.
in case we get arrested or something. You know.
Yeah. So to sum up today's theme, what's out are laws, and what's in are hamburger fraud. And I'll gladly defraud you tomorrow for a fat burger today. I do want to note how history, echoes and rhymes. Wilmer Hale, one of the law firms that's standing up to Trump, used to be known as Hale and Dorr. And you remember that famous incident where a guy said to Joseph McCarthy, "Have you no decency, sir?" That kind of ended Joseph McCarthy's whole Red Scare thing. That lawyer
Yeah.
was named Joseph Welch, and he worked for Hale and Dorr.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do the same
Imagine
shit.
that working today, by the way. Have you no decency, sir? You know what I mean? Like, actually, people being like, "Oh, this is fucked up." It's like, just not how anybody thinks about stuff anymore, it seems. Like, decency's gay. I mean, that's Elon Musk literally said that, right? About empathy. That was like the big problem with Western democracy is empathy.
Yeah, the big problem with the West is empathy. Yeah, and just imagine like what Joseph Welch is basically being interrogated for in front of McCarthy in his Senate hearings was like basically how many Jews and communists work at their law firm. So like if who's our Joseph McCarthy, Ted Cruz. Let's say Ted Cruz.
Sure.
Ted Cruz asked Brad Karp from Paul Weiss, "How many Jews work at your law firm?" He'd be like, 12, sir.
Right. Yeah. What?
Yeah.
So let me ask you about this. Since we got a little bit of time left. Do you see what's up with Trump? So Trump himself has now explicitly acknowledged that he might try to get a third term or whatever. I know there's Andy Ogles did the bill, and I know Steve Bannon talked about it and all this, but like now Trump has said something about it. Is that true?
He did say something about it, but it doesn't matter. Like, look, we got to be like, well, Trump says stuff, right? He acknowledged, he basically was asked.
That's what, did you see what Marshawn Lynch, speaking of Bill Maher, did you see when Marshawn Lynch was on Bill Maher's show? And Bill Maher asked him, he said, Trump said something, whatever Trump had said about the kneeling, because Marshawn kneeled during all that. And it's like, and he was like, Trump called it unpatriotic kneeling during his football games. And Marshawn goes, yeah, well, that motherfucker says a lot of shit. So,
yeah, Marshawn's right.
Yeah.
Marshawn's absolutely right. So, like, if you asked him a question, are you going to run? Are you going to try to serve a third term? First of all, you're setting up to say yes. So he says yes to everything. Are you going to try to serve a third term? Yes. Well, how? He's like, well, there are plans in play.
That's what he said. He said there are ways, right? Isn't that what he said? Yeah.
And the ways are Andy Ogles' bill, and also the Kabuki theater thing, where JD is technically on the running for president, and Trump's the vice president, and then JD resigns on inauguration day. And
Did you know that's how the first woman to ever be elected to office in Alabama was elected? It was George Wallace's wife ran after he was term limited, and it was Kabuki theater shadow thing where it's like he was still just the governor, but his wife ran, and that's what it took to get a woman elected in Alabama. But anyway, but your thing on any of those possibilities, you're just like, what? We just can't let that happen. That's just not going to happen. You can't acknowledge it.
It's not that I don't think he might try something at some point. I'm saying, like, there's no point. Like, if you ask Donald Trump, sir, are we going to put a fucking a condo, a timeshare on the moon? He'd be like, well, we're looking into it. Mm-hmm. Like, whatever you ask him, he's gonna say we're looking into it. Like, so, like, you're just working yourself. You work yourself into a tizzy. But, like, maybe they're going to try to do it. I don't know. It's 3 years. Can we worry about it in 3 years?
Okay, so that's your basic position on it at the end of the day is there's too much to worry about right now. Because it's been like 2 months and 10 days or whatever. So,
Yeah, they're snatching people off the street and saying they don't have any due process rights, which technically legally don't have a lot. And when asked if they snatched a citizen and got deported, where are they supposed to where's the point by which they can go in front of a court and, like me, if they snatch me off the street and try to ship me to El Salvador, where is the point in the process where I can go to a court and say I was born in Lynchburg, Virginia? And they're like, well, there is no point. I'm more worried about that happening than some guy trying to pull like a look your shoe is untied electorally with the Supreme Court in 3 years.
Yeah. But it's just, I just know that whatever, and I get what you're saying. You ask Trump anything and he'll say fucking anything. But I guess this literally just happened because I saw a bunch of scuttlebutt about him having said that. But on the, what you just said, it's like, what's the point in the process where I defend myself and say I'm an American citizen? That's kind of why I was asking about these college students we keep hearing about earlier, because it's like, people are getting disappeared that are not. It ain't like they're famous or anything. They're low profile, but they still get found out about. So it's like whenever we do get to that point where they're just sending, luckily me and you are white still. I guess what I'm saying is like, if they can just get some random college kid just from like, just a standard Facebook page, then, at what point do they start grabbing up, podcast hosts, just as one example, or comedians, just people, what I mean? Just hypothetically, I'm just saying it could be anything.
They're eventually, there's no way that some citizens haven't been caught up. A bunch of people that have legal protected status have been caught up. Like people, the service star, the PhD candidate, Raymusa Ozturk, we talked about earlier, she was here legally. And they revoked her visa to make her illegal on illegal pretext, and then kidnapped her off the street and shipped her to Louisiana. Okay, but there are definitely other people who have still intact legal permanent status who have been shipped off. There's no way they haven't caught a citizen up in this. There's no way. It's too clumsy and hectic. And I already saw a case that the conservatives have found that's sympathetic from a guy who got shipped to El Salvador. They're making noise about it online today. This is like people. There was a poll that came out today. All right. It was presented fraudulently by CBS News. It says like 53% of people approve of Donald Trump's deporting illegal immigrants. But if you look at the actual data, 77% of people, I think, oppose, or 79% of people oppose deporting people with legal status.
Yeah.
What he's actually doing is tremendously unpopular, and the news media is pretending that everyone's for it. It's very weird. But people are going to learn and tell them. Tell them people with legal protected status are being caught up in this shit who haven't done anything illegal. They said the guy with there's a guy with the autism tattoo guy went viral too. That he got caught up and said, oh, he's a tattoo. He's Tren de Aragua. He has like a autism ribbon tattoo with his brother's name on in honor of his brother.
Is that the guy that's like a coach of his kid's soccer team or whatever? Do you know the guy I'm talking about?
I think it's a different guy.
There was another guy that got caught up in that Tren de Aragua stuff, and he was like I said, he like coaches little league soccer and is like a suburban dad or whatever, but he has these tattoos and I guess is of Venezuelan descent. I don't even know if that part's true, but that's just my assumption. And he got wrapped up in all that and shipped off. And
when did you ever hear of Tren de Aragua before the one viral Fox News story from Aurora, Colorado?
From that apartment building, right? Yeah, and yeah.
I'm not stepping out of my door and running into Tren de Aragua. They're not a problem in my life, and they're not a problem in anyone else's life either.
Yeah, well, that's how I feel about the fucking just immigrants in general. I kind of reference that on stage right now. It's like we live, me and you live in Southern California. This is like, I know we're not in San Diego, but still, like, this is supposed to be the front lines of this crisis, the border crisis. And it's like, I've never seen, anything that could be categorized as the type of immigrant panic that they're warning everybody about.
Dude, the only here are the problems I've had. Okay, there's a guy who pushes a churro cart by my window every day, and if I have my patio door open, my dog will bark at it because you think it's a goose honk. He honks his horn, think it's a goose or something. Okay. When I lived in a broke neighborhood, there was like a Dia de la Muerta statue in the yard across the street. The one where I think I mentioned it before, where the dog with the pit bull and the rooster shared a yard.
Yeah, that's pretty stereotypical.
And I was sitting out back smoking a cigarette, and this little girl, it's one of the stone cold gangster moments I've ever seen in my entire fucking life, calmly walks down the street with a brick in her hand, turns and faces the Dia de la Muerta statue, which is in a glass case, smashes it with a brick, then slowly walks away. It's a patron saint of drug dealers and murderers, okay? And then she just didn't like the patron saint, I guess.
Sure.
And the other one is like, the charismatic sort of like holy roller Mexicans celebrate Easter in like May and would throw loud parties outside of my old apartment. And like, I didn't know today was Easter again. It's like, those are the problems.
Mm-hmm.
My problems are fun anecdotes.
Migrant caravans, that are drugged out and heavily armed and all that shit. Like there's, none of that. And I mean, sure. You look up and down any given street, you're going to see guys that are some kind of Latino or Hispanic, whatever, doing landscaper shit and other just jobs that they talk about like they're taking them. But those guys have just, they've just got a stranglehold on that market. I don't know if they're legal or not or whatever, but that's just what, it's been the case here. Right. And they do a good job and they're fine with everybody and they're not fucking up neighborhoods. They're actually improving neighborhoods. But
a bunch of Spanish speaking dudes just spent like all last week redoing all the bushes and flowers on my street. And it looks real nice. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, all the best to everybody out there. Hope, hope you don't get disappeared. Hope I don't either. Hope nobody else does. I doubt that's probably too much to ask for. But
if you guys do see ICE kidnapping, just film it. Mm-hmm. Like, because ICE will black bag you too or beat the fuck out of you for like speaking up to some degree if no one's looking. So anyway, I saw that from a defense lawyer recommending how people handle it. So yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, hang in there, everybody. We'll see what happens, and hope you enjoy your April Fool's Day. If you're a lying sack of shit, have a good one. Or you know, just
Have a great day, you lying sacks of
yeah.
shit. Yeah, this was for you.
Yeah, keep your guards up and all that good stuff. But anyway, thanks for watching. And reminder, of course, go to TreyCrowder.com. Check out my upcoming tour dates. Come and see me. Next up, Lowell, Arkansas, then East Tennessee, then Eugene and Portland, Oregon, Houston, Texas, Vegas, Tulsa, La Jolla, California, and a bunch more after that. Go to TreyCrowder.com. Also, there's a link there to my special Trash Daddy. Brand new. Watch it. For the record, by the way, it's completely different material than what I'm doing at those live shows. If you watch that and come see me live, there won't be a shred of overlap between the two. So fret not on that front. I've got some comments from people that I guess were a little confused on that. So yeah, it will be different. And finally, if you want to support the show, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. Go to weeklyskews.com/more, or just sign up on Patreon. Go there and search for my name. $5 a month. You get access to 2 full-length bonus episodes. So you get 50% more skews in your life and support the show in the process. Either way, keep watching on Skews Days. We'll keep doing them, I reckon. So we'll see you